Maneva say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there osia dem yopo.
You are once again welcome to PENDREAM TV, the only channel that brings you the best and latest updates in politics. If you are new here, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell for more updates. Like and also share to other members to watch as well. Can equally leave a comment after watching or send us a voice note on our WhatsApp number, which is 0277 128777, showing on your screen as well. Do join me listening to what we have for you today. And it's all about Hamza revealing how wicked and deceptful Nana Addo is. Without much time wasting, I would like you to join me listening to what he said into detail. Thank you.
Just share your thought on this.
It is what I said will never happen. One can cheer.
Political infiltration into chieftaincy matters, no.
No, but this it is not new. It is not new with the NPP when it comes to political interference, especially as far as our chieftaincy institutions are concerned, and not just the New Patriotic Party, but Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo in particular. And it is important that people don't lose sight of that fact. Indeed, even in the most daunting period of Dagbon, when the Yana was murdered, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo played an instrumental role, and there were so many questions that needed to be asked, even as Attorney General, in terms of how he prosecuted the people and his earlier role with one of the royal families. In this particular case, I make direct reference to the Abudu family, and some of his actions when he associated with them is known. So Nana Addo seemed to be interested. His politics revolves around divide and rule. So it is not new.
But how does that work for him? How does that work for him?
It does, because what he does is simply is that, look, when he comes to an area that he seemed not to have an influence, what he simply does is to launch onto the chieftaincy institution, because he knows that people are emotionally invested. So even those who hitherto didn't have any association with him would be forced to come his way because he seemed championing their side of the chieftaincy divide. He does it. And again, you see, when people talk about Boku, look at the events in Boku. What really happened in Boku? Because even as opposition party, when we picked signals that there were going to be problems in Boku, as a result of the High Court ruling in Kumasi, our flag bearer and running mate were prevented from going to the zone, northeast region towards upper east.
That's right.
But the president himself, who is in charge of national security and has a national security minister, saw it prudent to visit northeast within that same period. And when he visited, so many people raised alarms and said that, look, knowing Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, he probably went to prepare the grounds for the onward movement of the guy to Boku. So if you guys are not careful, after he leaves Boku, you are likely to have a situation on your hands. And true to their words, when Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo left Boku, we all heard in the news what happened, to an extent that even people were maimed and killed on the streets of northeast region towards the Boku area. So that has been Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and that is the reason why the likes of President Kufuor cautioned against his ascension to the presidency, because they knew. And remember, Kofi Kumsen had to cry out when he was cautioning this country that with Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo as president, he couldn't sleep. And this was a close associate of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Nyahu Tomakulu, at one point in time, was the campaign manager of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. He himself had to caution this country against an election of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo as president. But we didn't listen. So that is the trump card of Nana Addo. And what he's simply seeking to do is to extend his rule through Dr. Mahmoud Obama. And I can assure you, Big Sis, in terms of the parliamentary, they have done all their research. National security has gone out there. They have done the research and they have realized that they are losing. What they are planning to do is to adopt the same strategy they adopted in 2020 using the military and the security agencies to snatch some of the seats. That is why they have resorted to planting stories that the NDC is struggling when it comes to the parliamentary seats. It is simply to feed into...
I've even seen a video. NDC Nibi Kotua. I think it's from the north.
No.
Or Panko Chow. Now Obisi Ezu. And Obika said, no, you better still I better to my DMB. And people are suggesting that NDC is losing face in parts of northern Ghana.
It is not true. You see, that is another fallacy.
So I don't see a story.
You see, it is all being planted by the NPP to prepare the grounds to justify their rigging machinery come December 7. But I can assure you that all what they are doing, we know about it. And look, if you look at Northern Region, for instance, we expect not less than 14 seats.
Out of the 17.
Yes, out of the 18 we have, we expect not less than 14 seats. Upper East, I can guarantee you that they are not going to get even a single
But
seat.
those are expectations. Have you worked towards
We
it?
have worked towards it, and that is the reason why I could have said 17 out of 18. But it's because of the work we have put on the ground. That's why I'm telling you that we are winning 14 out of 18. You see, in Upper East, it is grounded. In Upper East, we are taking all the seats in Upper East, and I can assure you that in Northeast region at West, Upper West is already there for the taking. You know, but up Northeast, we will not forget, and that is the mistake people make.
Those people are the way they voted during their primaries. I'm like,
I can assure you that this election, we are taking Wale seat back. I can assure you that Wale is going back to the NDC. It has always been an NDC seat. And the worst performance in Northeast will be 50-50. Mark it anywhere in terms of the parliamentary seats. That will be the worst performance for the NDC. And so we know what we are doing. And as for the propaganda they are championing, be rest assured that it's not going to wash. They are simply throwing dust into the minds of eyes of Ghanaians so that when they unleash that rigging machinery with the use of the security agencies, there will be justification.
Last question.
But I can assure you that no. There's no, we are not going to allow that to happen.
Last question.
No, even before, but the judiciary raised an important issue about the judiciary. And in terms okay, that's fine.
But last question on this chieftaincy political infiltration matter. Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, a human rights lawyer, and the human rights lawyer, we've seen the violation of a man for rights, including that of the Queen Mother.
But nobody has said anything.
Does it shock you?
I am not shocked because that has always been the stock in trade of the New Patriotic Party. And Nana Addo Dankwa. You see, they succeed in packaging people for Ghanaians. But in truth, when you take out that cover, you realize that they become empty shells. They are empty. Nana Addo has succeeded over the years with the support of some few elements within the MPP to grant him that recognition as being a human rights lawyer. But the truth is that coming back to the law, what monumental achievements can you ascribe to Nana Addo that gives him that title? What? Because the law is based on evidence. We all know the cases that Nana Addo has championed, and in most of these cases that even can come close, he had the learned Chachuchikata as one of the major brains in terms of the legal reasoning. So when you look at the likes of what's the name, Chachuchikata, I think that we can clothe them with such level of recognition, but definitely not Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. But you made it right. A human rights lawyer under whose watch a journalist was murdered, and up till date, no one has been apprehended for that. Right. A human rights lawyer under whose watch as president 8 lives were lost in an election. That didn't happen under Jerry John Rawlings in 92 and 96. That didn't happen under President Mills. That didn't happen under President Kufuor. That didn't happen under Mills and John Dramani Mahama. Is John Dramani Mahama a lawyer? No. Definitely not. But John Dramani Mahama's fidelity to human rights principles stands tall, even if you compare him to that of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Again, you are dealing with a so-called human rights lawyer under whose watch journalists had to be flown out of this country because of fear for their lives. The likes of Manasseh Azuri Awuni. Today, Anas Aramiyao Anas has become a pale shadow of himself. He's in hiding, largely because of the atrocities under this government. And you refer to this man as a human rights lawyer? Definitely not. It is part of the deceptive package that the MPP, they have succeeded in giving us, like they did to Dr. Mahmoud Obama as an economic messiah. Today, we all know the true Dr. Mahmoud Obama and his wit, as far as our economic sphere is concerned. So, Nana Addo has nothing to cling on to when it comes to human rights. And you see, let us not allow that deception to continue to prevail upon the reasoning of Ghanaians. That is not a fact. Nana Addo is deceptive. Nana Addo is wicked. Nana Addo is reckless. And when it comes to Nana Addo, 2 things matter under the sun: power and money.
Power and money. It is a cost for AGDA ABBA form.
That is in the judiciary.
As in the judiciary.
I think, Kwame, again, you have to look at where we come from and where we have gotten to this stage. We all woke up to the gory reportage of Anna some years back in terms of how some judges conducted themselves in relation to bribe taking, associated even with good taking and stuff like that. I think these were events that should have prompted us as a country that something was wrong with our judiciary. And for the NDC and President Mills of blessed memory, we responded to that challenge by trying to be as nationalistic as possible in terms of our appointments to the judiciary. And that is why even up till date, you will hear NDC people accusing NDC functionaries, and especially President Mills and President Mahama, of not appointing NDC inclined judges to the Supreme Court. Because we understood that this fourth Republican democracy is our baby. And we made a commitment as a party, and even reflects that in our party's anthem, where we said that we shall, from victory unto victory, the NDC shall build a stable democracy.
That's right.
We shall lead a stable democracy. So we understood that to lead that stable democracy, we needed to go beyond the partisanship and focus more on nationalistic views. And so even in terms of our appointments, we were clouded by the nationalistic underpinnings. It had nothing to do with partisan considerations. Fast forward, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo came into office. All the gains the NDC made in terms of rebranding the judiciary, we saw an erosion from the word go. When he started appointing not just NPP apparatchiks, but in fact failed parliamentary candidates on the ticket of the NPP onto the Supreme Court bench. And interestingly, when we raised concerns, civil society thought that we were kidding. Today, look at where we are. If you look at 90% of the judges at the Supreme Court, most of them were appointed by Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. So he just did not appoint partisan affiliates to the Supreme Court. He has also succeeded in packing the Supreme Courts. What that simply means is that it gives the sitting Chief Justice the luxury to fetch into the pool and appoint people that can be sympathetic to the ruling government to sit on cases. That is where we are. And that is what people are not
using the digitalization.
Yes, that is why people, because if you are preaching digitalization, what it simply means is that digitalization rather makes the work less burdensome on human beings. So you would need lesser hands. So that is even enough justification for you to have kept the numbers at the Supreme Court lower.
That's true.
But you have rather increased it, largely because of your political motivations. And what made the matters even worse was the unfortunate declaration of the Chief Justice. You see, when we talk of judicial independence, this is important. It is not a privilege to the judiciary. It is actually a basic right to the Ghanaian people. Because they must be confident that this institution is independent. But when you look at the posture of our judges and you make reference to judicial independence, they feel that it is a privilege unto them. No, it is actually a right to the Ghanaian people that the judiciary must be independent and must be seen as such. But when you appoint a Chief Justice from the Court of Appeal, in no time to the Supreme Court, and in less than 2 years, Chief Justice, when there are other seniors on the bench, it raises fundamental issues of trust in the judiciary. That's one fundamental issue. When you sidestep all other seniors to appoint, people can begin to have their own concerns.
But how does that culminate into impartiality?
I'll get there.
On the side of the judges.
I'll get there. You see, now, the first act of the Chief Justice, her ladyship took on. Listen to what she said when she delivered the speech at the IBA, and that borders on judicial independence. He says, "We are especially grateful to His Excellency the President for the strong support we have received from the Office of the President. The culmination of his support is the presence of His Excellency the President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, who will be officially opening the Bible, a lawyer and champion of justice." This is our Chief Justice speaking highly of our President. A lawyer and champion of justice. The President's name is definitely etched in the legal history of this country as a most distinguished legal practitioner. His belief in the rule of law, this is important, has been evident during his tenure. And the Judicial Service of Ghana has been a happy beneficiary of his exceptional levels of physical and technological infrastructure during his period. Now that's exceptional. Wow. This is a Chief Justice speaking highly of a sitting president, and saying that his what's the name? His belief in the rule of law is comparable to that.
Is it wrong?
It is, because you see, this is the man in charge of the executive power of this country. On daily basis, you would have citizens of this country questioning his acts as president and acts of institutions that are under him. And so if already your mindset is that this is a man who makes no wrong, this is a man who believes in the rule of law and respects it, how can you be impartial in your judgment when you are already seated with this kind of mentality? Because anytime Nanado's issues are brought before you, your mind on him is already made up. So you'll be looking for evidence to consolidate your own position about the man. And that is why that declaration was problematic. And so, for me, this is not surprising. Again, when you look at the conduct of the judiciary under her, since she assumed office, look at the number of cases that have gone before her, including the LGBTQ case.
Yeah.
As we speak today, the case has been run for over a year now.
That's right.
The Supreme Court has not deemed it important to resolve that matter. But an issue of vacancy of seat, we have given it the speed of light under her leadership. Again, that is strange. But mostly, this is important.
Could that not be as a result of representative?
It cannot be, because we have made references to the issues of Saul. In the last election, as we speak, there are still some communities in the Volta region who have not been represented, largely because of the recklessness and wickedness of this current electoral commissioner, Jim Mensah. And as we speak, the cases are still in court. Chachuchiketa moves from one court to the other, struggling to uphold the rights of these citizens. The judiciary didn't deem it appropriate to expedite action on those cases. So what would your basis for telling us that you needed to expedite action on this particular case when we are dealing with just 4 MPs whose absence will not affect the functioning of parliament, if it is not political? So when you conduct yourself in this manner and people begin to ask questions and doubt the legitimacy or independence of the judiciary, they are grounded in fact. And so for some of us, that is a worry. Again, my brother, we are dealing with emotions, and as a chief justice, your conduct is important. I've heard so many people complain. Now we monitor their activities live. I've heard so many people complain about her demeanor. And even as lawyers, these are things they teach us. Your demeanor is linked to your ethics.
Wow.
And so your posturing is important in terms of your practice of the law. Because a particular posturing could give the wrong impression that you are biased in favor of another group of people, litigants who are before you. And so if you look at the conduct of the Chief Justice, many people branded her conduct, especially on the day that Thaddeus Sori appeared before her, as being simply confrontational. And the demeanor, the body language was not exciting to watch.
But as a lawyer, are these things not expected? Are these don't these things happen in court?
No, they can happen in court. But when it comes to somebody like the Chief Justice, who is supposed to be an epitome of independence, much is expected of her. Neutrality is expected of her. It is very important. And you see, and that is why we are having these discussions. Because you see, tomorrow, if there is a need for us to protect the sanctity of the judiciary, all these issues will come to play. For the next government to take that decision. And it is important for us to put it in perspective. And for me, who says that the judiciary is more powerful than the Parliament of Ghana or the executive? The Constitution did not suggest that. We are dealing with 3 independent bodies who must work together under the principle of checks and balances to ensure that our democracy progresses. No one arm is powerful than the other. Let us not create the impression that the judiciary is more powerful than Parliament. It is not true. How can a judiciary be more powerful than the representative of the people? Because when you look at Parliament, Parliament is a microcosm or a reflection of the entire country.
That's right.
So, in principle, Parliament should rather have been seen to be more powerful. But because we run a constitutional supremacy, we say that the constitution is supreme.
To be any lane.
You understand? So everybody should be in his or her lane.
Separation of
But you see, and that's the essence of separation of powers. So you do not, when the constitution makes provisions for us to foster separation of powers, the least the judiciary can do is to uphold them. That is why many legal experts, including former Supreme Court judges, have raised concerns about the assumption of jurisdiction even in this particular case. Because if you look at the legal precedents, there is no way that the Supreme Court should have assumed jurisdiction in this case, especially when you have Article 93. What's the name? Is it 99? 99.
Yes.
You have Article 99. The proper forum should have been the High Court. And if you look at Article 97 again, there's a fundamental issue. Kwame, finally, let me quickly make this. You see, it is not every, the Supreme Court has held in a number of cases that it is not every matter dressed as an interpretation of the Constitution that is actually interpretation of the Constitution. And listen, I'm just reading 97G. It says, if he leaves the party of which he was a member at the time of his election to Parliament to join another party, or operational word, or seeks to remain in Parliament as an independent member. So you cannot use seek to remain in Parliament and interpret it to mean join another party. They are not the same things. It says when you do this or when you do this.
Yeah.
So the question we are asking, even strictly under G, is that is there evidence that some of the MPs have abandoned their earlier parties and they have joined another party? Yes. It doesn't matter whether they seek to remain in this parliament or the next parliament.
Notice of poll, naturally.
The notice of poll is an
evidence.
official record.
Yeah.
It's there. They have joined. So you do not even need interpretation.
The H is clear.
And the H2 is clear. When you leave an independent, when an independent joins a party, it is also very clear. So what interpretation are you assuming? And you see, another worrying trend was the preoccupation.
As you're wrapping up.
Yes. Because remember you heard the Chief Justice say that, but what kind of country is it? Even Parliament cannot sit because of this. And the sorry had to remind her, prompt her that no, it is not true that Parliament cannot sit. The reason why we are here today is not because Parliament cannot sit. Parliament is sitting. Parliament is simply on recess. So that is the kind of operational mentality they had to assume jurisdiction, which is faulty. Are you getting the point? And that is why we are raising concerns. And you see, when we talk of independence, we have seen the work of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and that is the reason why the judiciary should have been careful. And it will be unfair on the part of the NDC or any political commentator to lump the judiciary as a whole. Because I can assure you that on a daily basis, we have discussions with a number of judges, and many of them are embarrassed and are concerned about the future of the judiciary of this country. I can assure you. So it will be unfair for us to say that the judiciary of this country is not working. There are many of our compatriots out there who still uphold the principles of independence, who try, regardless of their political positions, to be concerned or to be championing the national interest. And there are many of them out there who are complaining.
But the bad nuts are making it hard for us to see.
Of course, they are making it hard. It is expected. It is expected. But you see, there is hope. There is hope. Kwame, I can assure you that. There's change is coming pretty much soon. And that is one interesting thing about democracy. When that change comes, I see the possibility of the NDC not just resetting the economy of this country. The NDC will reset all these institutions. And when that time comes, let no one scream witch hunting. I have always maintained that if there are witches, they must be hunted. And at this stage of our democracy, there are witches.
Which must be hunted.
They must be hunted.
Wow.
From the Electoral Commission through to the judiciary, there are bad nuts that we must ensure that through investigation, we bring them out to save the sanctity of these institutions. Because we will not allow Nana Addo to hand over to us a poison system and expect us to run with that poison system. We will treat the system before we proceed. That I can assure you.
Okay, hand over my dream because see Trump and Biden and almost share White House.
Almost
share when they tia well. Okay, hand over my common yetia. We said Mahama Nana Addo Sanamo omo come on so be ya ho
Omi
se ye koduru sada
na na do kwada hwa wo ma.
PENDREAM TV really cherish and appreciate your time on the channel. Please do subscribe if you have not yet subscribed to the channel. Hit the notification bell, turn it to all posts so that you'll be notified duly of any content that will be landed onto the channel. Thank you. Do share to your friends as well. Stay tuned for more.
Dedi kama amena PENDREAM TV ase. Na so far so good. Say open online portal e wo Ghana. Ah nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.